I've lost track of the number of times when pupils or parents have asked me for recommended reads. In my experience, the pupil has often been a keen reader up until the age of 11 and then has gradually got out of the habit of regular, enjoyable reading. The aim of this occasional series is to share books with you that I've been reading for the first time and really enjoying. I hope you might like the sound of one or two and give them a go yourselves. Reading does take more initial motivation and time than other pursuits, but I can promise you that once you've got into a book, it can become such an enjoyable, interesting, worthwhile use of time. The added bonus is that over time, regular readers will improve their own written English, particularly in relation to creativity and style. So, in order of the most enjoyable first, here are 6 books that I have read in the past 2 months. I came across John Kennedy Toole's A Confederacy of Dunces when doing a Google search on funniest literature, and can I honestly say that I haven't laughed so much at a book in years. The star of the show is Ignatius J. Reilly, a vastly overweight son who has a withering view of the modern world and is hell-bent on doing as little as possible. Exasperated beyond belief, his mother eventually insists that he gets a job, and I roared with laughter hearing about his various farcical mishaps, working first in an office and then as a hot dog salesman. It took me a while to get used to the style of writing, but both my wife and I found this book utterly hilarious and heartily recommend. I do feel a bit guilty, immature, shamefaced, you name it, putting C.D. Payne's A Youth in Revolt in second place in my list. Look up and read the first page online and you'll understand why. Our hero is 14-year-old Nick Twisp, who, like many teenage boys I would imagine, is obsessed about the prospect of sex and mesmerised by anything female. He gets into some hilarious scrapes, including unwittingly showering with a straight-laced, indignant, middle-aged churchgoer, but I also enjoyed so many things, including his withering observations about his parents. The book is extremely well written. There's some highly amusing imagery, which I found helpful when thinking about my own writing. In third place is Kingsley Amis's famous classic novel, Lucky Jim, which, like A Confederacy of Dunces and A Youth in Revolt, appeared during Google searches for funniest literature. Of course, I'd heard of this book before, but like many books I've heard of, including War and Peace, I haven't yet got round to reading. This one was well worth the wait. The hero is Jim Dixon, a fairly half-hearted academic trying to secure a long-term contract within the history department of a university. In truth, he doesn't seem to be that bothered about his subject, and the comedy lies in his attempts to butter up the pompous, bumbling professor whom he secretly despises. Jim, a chain smoker and near alcoholic, is also fairly hopeless with women and has a wonderful knack of getting into excruciatingly embarrassing situations, including a time when he leaves cigarette burns on bedsheets when staying drunkenly at the professor's house, and his attempts to cover this up simply make things far worse. Thoroughly recommended, and there are some deeper, bittersweet moments too. I've become very interested in Scott Fitzgerald. Many years ago, like many of you, I read and enjoyed The Great Gatsby, but some of his short stories, including the collection within The Curious Case of Benjamin Button and 6 other stories, are excellent. The great thing with reading collections of short stories is that they don't involve the same time investment as novels. So if you are busy, for example, preparing for exams, you can have a break by spending 20 to 30 minutes on a short story, knowing that it won't matter if you haven't time to come back to the collection for a few weeks. The stories include flawed characters that we can all relate to, and I find the endings often leave me with the sense that I have been exposed to deeper, sometimes sad truths about life. Of course, the title story is the most well known and has been made into a film, but for me it's probably my least favourite amongst the 7. The Cut Glass Bowl is much better for me, with some beautiful descriptions and taut observations about fate. In 5th place lies Evelyn Waugh's Brighthead Revisited, which, like Lucky Jim, I'd known about for years before finally getting round to reading a few months ago. This is unquestionably the darkest of the novels that I've been talking about in this video, and explores the deep friendship between the narrator Charles Ryder and the flamboyant aristocrat Sebastian Marshmain. the pair become inseparable, with Charles dazzled by Sebastian's insouciant disdain and je ne sais quoi. Time and distance ultimately separate Charles and Sebastian, leaving the former to indulge in nostalgic musings, and also to begin a relationship with Sebastian's sister Julia. Unquestionably an interesting read. And finally, I'd like to mention Georgian Weedon Grossmith's The Diary of a Nobody. I have to be honest, I didn't find it as funny as some of the reviews suggested. One said that 100 years after first appearing in book form, it remains as fresh, humane and exhilarating as ever. However, it is an easy, gentle read and explores the day-to-day adventures and routines of a middle-aged couple, their home and their comparatively errant son. Some moments did make me smile though. It's a short book and there are far worse ways to spend an afternoon. Well, I hope this has given you a few ideas for your own reading. Feel free to post comments below this on your own favourite books, for ultimately there are few richer mental experiences than reading a book in which you have grown to love or become fascinated by events and characters. Thank you for watching.